The next item of business this afternoon is topical questions. Question number 1, Patrick Harvey.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. Can I ask the Scottish Government what recent representations it has received regarding rendition flights landing in Scotland?
Cabinet Secretary Kenny MacAskill.
The Scottish Government strongly opposes illegal rendition flights. No representations have been received by the Scottish Government regarding these flights. However, as I said back in 2007, if anyone has any evidence of law-breaking of this sort, they should come forward with it and help justice to be done. I would reiterate that today.
Patrick Harvey.
Thank you. I gather my colleague, Mr Finney, has in fact written to the Lord Advocate regarding this matter, following reports in the press demonstrating evidence of landings from Wick, Aberdeen and Inverness. Does the Cabinet Secretary accept that a proactive approach is needed in this matter, that it's not enough simply to wait until evidence of something which is innately covert is produced, and that even if flights are returning through Scottish airports for refuelling, for example, without detainees on board at the time they're in Scottish airports, that itself is complicity in much the same way as flights taking prisoners through our airports would be?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, the Scottish Government does take these matters very seriously and would not condone in any shape or form any such action. Mr Finney's letter hasn't been received as yet by the Crown, but they've made it clear how strongly they would view it, and have also asked, obviously, that any information should be made available. The police and the Crown can only act if that information is there. This is what we have always sought to do as a government. Back on the 27th of June 2007, you yourself, Mr Harvey, asked me about rendition then. I stated at that stage that we treated these allegations very seriously. We stated our opposition to rendition flights. We made it clear that civil aviation is a reserved matter, and so it's the responsibility of the UK Government in that respect, but clearly criminal matters are the responsibility not simply of the Scottish Government, but in particularly of law enforcement, both Crown and indeed police. We did ask for information to be provided. Amnesty International did meet with me, and I did pass on the documentation that they had at that stage to the then Lord Advocate Dame Eilish Angelini, who fully investigated, but no proceedings could be taken. I have no doubt that the Lord Advocate, Frank Mulholland, would give an exactly the same assurance as he has been doing in response to the letter that's coming his way from Mr Finney. We do not support, condone and would not allow it, but unless the information is there for our police and our prosecutors, then there are difficulties as to what they can do, and civil aviation, until there is a change in the Constitution, remains for the United Kingdom Government.
Patrick Harvey.
Thank you. 2 years before the exchange to which the Cabinet Secretary refers, back in a debate in the Chamber in 2005, Mr McCaskill, speaking from the opposition benches at that time, said that this is not simply a police matter or a matter for law officers, but a political matter. This comes down to political will, he said. Fundamentally, that is what is lacking from the then executive. I regret that we appear to be in much the same position at the moment. Can the Cabinet Secretary tell me of any other area of serious organised crime where such a reactive approach would be taken, where police and the government would not actually take a proactive approach and investigate vehicles which were suspected of being used for such serious criminal offences? Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I would first of all refute any suggestion that the Scottish Police would not take action and do not take action. If the information is available to them, then they most certainly would act. But the situation here applies that information has been provided that is historic, that could not have been available to them at the time. If people do have this information, it should be provided. It will be investigated, as it was to the credit of the former Lord Advocate Dame Eilish Angelini. We do not view it simply as a matter of law enforcement. It is for that basis that I did meet with Amnesty International and did engage with them, gave them the assurances that it would be fully considered. It's not for the government to bring prosecutions, but as a government, we gave the information to the Lord Advocate that was given to us by Amnesty International. Subsequently to that, I have had discussions regarding this with a variety of organisations, including, because of a personal friendship with Reprieve UK, with Clive Stafford-Smith. If that information is there, if it is provided, we will pass it on. Equally, I can give the assurance that Police Scotland and the Crown will not hesitate to take the appropriate action, but the information has to be with them for them to be able to act.
Jenny Mara.
Presiding Officer, there are reports this morning that Dundee Airport may be linked to rendition. Can I ask the Cabinet Secretary to ask the UK Government if they have any information on the use of Dundee Airport for rendition activity?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, again, these are matters for the law officers and for the police. I will no doubt be happy to pass that on to the Lord Advocate, who awaits Mr Finney's letters. These will be matters that he will doubtless consider, given the reference suggested. Equally, though, I am also available that the matters correctly raised with me by Mr Harvey happened not under the watch of the current coalition government, but did indeed occur when it was a Labour government in the UK. And going back to the information provided to me by Clive Stafford-Smith, I think Jack Straw has a lot to answer for in the complicity for what I understand has been UK alliance with the United States in rendition.
Question number 2, Michael Biaggi.
To ask the Scottish Government when it will introduce the proposed Marriage and Civil Partnership Scotland Bill.
Cabinet Secretary Alex Neil.
Presiding Officer, as was set out by the First Minister in the programme for government on the 4th of September 2012, we will be introducing the Marriage and Civil Partnership Scotland Bill within the 2012-13 parliamentary session. Therefore, the bill will be introduced before the forthcoming summer recess.
Michael Biaggi.
Thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer, because this bill offers equality not just for LGBT people, but also for those diverse faiths who sincerely believe in same-sex marriage and are currently prevented from holding such ceremonies. However, I recognise that just as these faiths wish to perform same-sex marriage, many others do not or are divided on the issue. What progress, therefore, has been made on ensuring the necessary changes to the UK Equality Act to safeguard the right of each religion to govern its own internal affairs on this matter?
Alex Neil.
Presiding Officer, we have made substantial progress in cooperation with Maria Miller, the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, who is responsible for these matters in the UK Government, and I hope to be in the position on publishing the bill itself to confirm the details of the amendments that will be put to the UK Equality Act in respect of the Scottish Bill on Marriage and Civil Partnership.
Michael Biaggi.
The Cabinet Secretary will also be aware of the claims that have been made by Maria Miller around the cost and timescales for also equalising civil partnership. A key aim of the Equal Marriage campaign in Scotland has been to secure mixed-sex civil partnerships as well, and I personally would be deeply uncomfortable at LGBT people continuing to be singled out by legislation that emphasises our difference. What consideration has the Cabinet Secretary given to this issue, and will he order a review or other work to be done to assess the potential impact should the Parliament express that its wish is to open up civil partnerships to mixed-sex couples?
Alex Neil.
Presiding Officer, as the member will be aware, Maria Miller has ordered a review, indeed built it into the legislation for same-sex marriage down south. That review actually will cover devolved matters in respect of England, but also reserved matters such as pensions. Therefore, I am giving consideration on how we should address this issue, and I would hope to make an announcement to Parliament fairly soon.
Drew Smith.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. Last week, following the vote in the House of Commons, Stonewall Scotland called on us members of the Scottish Parliament to get on with it in relation to equal marriage in Scotland. So can I very much welcome the Cabinet Secretary's confirmation that a bill will be introduced before the summer recess. While the progress of that bill will be a matter for this Parliament, the presiding officers, could the Cabinet Secretary indicate, in terms of the timetable that he has in mind, would he envisage that the first marriages under this bill, under the provisions of this bill, would take place before or after the September 2014 referendum?
Alex Neil.
Presiding Officer, I'm not thinking in terms of a referendum, but rather the principles of the bill. And obviously, we have given a commitment to introduce this legislation after the extensive consultation we've had as quickly as possible, which is what we're doing. It's then up, obviously, to the relevant committee in the Parliamentary Bureau to timetable the bill, but I would hope the timetabling would be such that we could see this bill become law sooner rather than later.
Dave Thompson.
Marriage is different to civil partnership, and I personally do not believe this is an equality issue, as civil partnerships provide nearly all of the legal rights and obligations of marriage, and can easily be adjusted to make the two the same. In the light of concerns about religious freedom, will the Cabinet Secretary confirm that the civil liberty and religious freedom of people of faith will be safeguarded on the face of the bill, not in regulation, but in the face of the bill?
Alex Neil.
Presiding Officer, the main protections in terms of what the member refers to will actually be in the amendments to the Equality Act, because a lot of that is actually reserved matters rather than devolved matters. Obviously, reserved matters cannot be in the face of a bill which is on devolved matters. But the key point I think the member will want reassurance on is that the civil rights of those who do not wish to participate or carry out a same-sex marriage, those rights not to do so will be fully protected.
Thank you. That concludes topical questions, and we move on to the next item of business, which is an Equal Opportunities Committee